Okay, we are going live. Going live. Well, we're trying to go live. Let's put it this way. I'm hoping that we're going live on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn, because today we're here to talk about the revolution of leadership development. Um, each week we're going to jump on here and talk about the need to lead different. It's time to lead different, but in order to do that, we're going to need to find new ways to develop leaders in the world today. So hopefully what we're going to be able to help you to understand is that there's a new way of thinking about leadership development because there's a desperate need to find new ways to lead organizations today. Because the question I want to ask all of you is, what if we've gotten leadership development backwards? What if we've actually been asking all the wrong questions? What if the answer isn't about knowing more, but actually becoming more of the leader that we're capable of? And that's what we're going to explore in this live stream today. I'm going to take you on a journey of evolution, and that is the understanding of leadership and how it's evolved, and also how the thinking around it needs to evolve to match it. So let me just make sure we can get everything working properly here for us all. So the first thing I want to address as we dive into this is understanding traditional thinking. Okay, this is really important to understand. So what is thinking like right now? And what we're thinking about right now is most people send their leaders on a 1-day, 3-day, 5-day course on leadership development, 1 day or 3 days in a row or 5 days in a row, or 3 days spread out over a period of time, or 8 days, one day a month for 8 months, various things. Okay. The challenge is with those sorts of formats of leadership courses and programs and the certificates and all that sort of stuff that we've been investing in organizations, is that most of what in day 5, by the time they get to day 5, they've forgotten about most of what's happened in day 1. Okay, most of that content is gone because there's information overload, and that leads to poor retention in our minds. Okay, the way that things are set up, there's so much information to consume, let alone process, let alone retain, that we need to try and apply to the workplace. So there's information overload. The next thing that we need to be mindful of in these leadership development processes and traditional thinking about leadership training and development is that there's limited time to actually practice or contextualize concepts in real world environments, not in simulated role plays, not in group little sessions, but actually right back in the workplace with your team, leading your team, and in the scenarios and situations that you deal with every day. Okay. And then please understand, in traditional thinking, after about 30 odd days, people are likely to retain about 21% of the content. There's usually no structured reinforcement after the 1-day, 3-day, 5-day, after the course. And then learning actually only happens in the classroom, as we've already alluded to, and not real workplace challenges. Other parts of traditional thinking, we need to understand that the way that the mind works and how humans can retain and consume information is usually within the first 20 minutes, people are likely to retain about 60% of what they've heard. Now, after the first hour, only about 44%, and then after 1 day, only about 33% remains. And then after 6 days, you'd be lucky if 25% is retained. Then after extended periods of time, you're lucky if you even remember the smallest amount of the original information to begin with. Because there's a thing, it's called the forgetting curve. Now, this was a study that was done way back in, remember that it was like 1850s to 1909, and it still holds true today, is that within 20 minutes, as we've already alluded to, the amount of information that you retain versus when you extend it over a period of time diminishes rapidly, right? Because it's one-time exposure to information, and there's so much information that you're exposed to that you don't have the ability to retain it all. And the bits that you do hold on to start to diminish over a period of time. And it's not a very long period of time. And then when the world of work gets around you and you start trying to deal with everything that's happening around you, you kind of go, I'll get back to that later. And not only do you have the ability to forget what you've been exposed to, you forget to go back to it because you just get back into doing what you were doing before, and not going through any real big shift or transformation in your leadership, other than having a great experience and gain some knowledge, but it hasn't shifted anything in terms of the way that you think or act. Because please understand that knowing and doing are two different things. So if we think about that, the other part we have to understand in traditional thinking is the way that we structure our organizations and the way that we lead them. Please understand this, that today's workforce is built for tomorrow's workplace just isn't ready yet for today's workforce. We talk about the change in generations, the advancement of technology, and this, work from home, not work from home, hybrid working, you name it. Factor into the mix AI, and now we have AI taking a lot of the redundant, repetitive work that we were doing as humans, and then it should be freeing us up to the work that humans must do. And so people, today's workplace has not prepared for that. Also, when you think about what AI has been doing and other technologies, it's just totally reimagining what work is, when we work, how we work, where we work, what we even call, work in the workplace. So all of this is changing, yet we're still training and developing leaders the same way we were before, with the same methodology and the same content. And please also understand that most of what we train leaders on today is still just modern management practices. Okay, there's been no major components that are built around leading people. And if AI and technology is we're leveraging those in our organizations to free humans up to do the work that we should be doing. We've gone away from human doings back to human beings. We need people who can help us to continue to be the best version of ourselves, to do our life's best work while we're in each other's care and beyond. And so we need to make sure that we have a lot of the development content, if you wish, has to be focused around leading people. Because please understand this, that you lead people and you manage resources, and people are not a resource. Okay, so when you think about modern thinking in organizations, basically what we're suggesting is that effective learning often requires at least 3 to 7 repetitions, but they should also be spaced out over time, not rather than just crammed in, active rather than passive, okay, and then in different contexts and formats. So when we actually have smaller pieces of learning with repetition spread out over a period of time, and then we have them so they can be acted on straight away and in different formats or contexts, then the human brain can absorb that more. It's easier to digest, it's easier to process, and it's easier to put into action. Right? And this is why we have been suggesting for the past 8 years that it's time to lead different. If you look at the way the world is and all those things we've already just talked about briefly, that the statistics are staggering. Okay, please understand this. It's staggering that we've spent in 12 months, 60 billion with a capital B dollars or more around the world on leadership development. That's, programs, courses, certificates, university degrees, books, programs, you name it, everything there. If you culminate it all together, be over about $60 billion annually gets spent on making leaders better. Yet, however, if you look at the engagement rates, or what I would call the disengagement rates in organization, that the studies that Gallup and Deloitte and all these other organizations do, the disengagement rate still remains high. Over 70% of people in the workforce are actively disengaged in the work that they're doing. They're unhappy at work. So if you have a company with 200 employees, you can pretty well guess that 140 of them are living paycheck to paycheck, coming in, doing what's needed of them just to get a paycheck and then going home. You're not getting the best of that human coming to work, and you're certainly not helping that human become more of what they're capable of while they're in the workplace, right? So if we're spending more and more on leadership development, yet the stats are not getting any better, if not possibly worse, would you invest in that? No, but we continue to do that. We continue to invest in sending people to get their certificates and their credits so they can slap up against the wall and go, look at me, I'm a leader, because I know more now. Right? If the world has changed, the world of business has changed, we then need to look at how we lead organizations. That needs to change. Therefore, we need to have a shift in thinking about how we develop leaders in the world today. We have to move away from management, focus more on leadership, and then change the way that we help humans to learn. Okay, so I've already alluded to this in one of my other comments, but we also need a new definition for leadership. So this is from my book, Simplified, that I wrote back in 2017, when I was asked many times, Dave, you talk about leadership. You've been doing leadership for 30 years across 3 continents and multiple different organizations. As a practitioner, you've been exposed to leadership. What does it mean to you? And this was my definition. To me, leadership is just all about helping other people become the best version of themselves so they can do their life's best work while they're in your care and beyond. And when you look at that, where in there does it say that you need a position or title to demonstrate leadership? Hopefully you can see that it doesn't require. So what we want to talk about in organizations is how do we build all around leadership, not more top down leaders in our organization. How do we build leadership depth and strength in our organizations, not more layers of leadership, but go deeper into the concept of leadership itself, right? So we want to firstly, we don't need more positions and titles. We don't need more leaders. We just need more leadership. So we want to build leadership depth and strength and create all around leadership in our organization. Now, the other part of this, hopefully at the bottom part there, the last sentence in that would help you to understand something else. While in your care and beyond, that should hopefully help you understand that leadership isn't just about while they're here at work. It's I actually care about you as a human being first and an employee second. I really would like to do whatever I can to help you to have the best life possible and help you to set you up for whatever career path you'd like to be on to achieve the things that you want in life. And by doing so, I would hope that you can learn how to do some really great work while you're here that would help you on that path, right? And I'm going to do everything in my power to help you to do that. Right? So it requires me to actually care about you as a human being first and an employee second. Right? And so you don't need a position or title, and I care about you as a human being, employee second. We should have resources for humans, not human as a resource. Leadership is simple. You lead people, right? And you manage resources, and people are not a resource. I'm employing spaced repetition in this whole process, by the way. So interesting. Actually, I'll leave that there. When you think about your organization, in your organizations today, you're leading your organizations, your CEO, business owner, leader, whatever it is of your organization. When you think about that and you think about your competitors, now your competitors out there, they can copy your bricks and mortar, they can copy your branding, your marketing, your processes, your procedures, your tech stack, your products and services, your offerings. They can pretty much go out there and copy everything that you're doing in business today, except for one thing. What's the one thing that they can't copy? And that is your ability to capture the spirit of your people. Okay, so please understand the one true sustainable competitive advantage you have in your business today and will always have over your competition is your ability to capture the spirit of your people. So it's your culture, obviously. So your leadership team has to be able to understand how to build an invincible culture, how to create something that attracts the best talent, retains the best talent, and develop world-class talent in your organization. Right? Because that is your one true sustainable competitive advantage. But if you're training your leadership team how to be better managers and to manage people, then you're treating them as a resource, then they are feeling like a number, they will act like a number, and you're not going to capture the spirit of your people. Okay, so this is why, again, leadership must be about people. And leaders, when you're doing leadership development, that they must understand how to build invincible cultures that capture the spirit of people, and how to help people become their best, to do their best while in their care and beyond, to build all around leadership, not more top-down leadership, and to go deeper into the concept of leadership, not create more layers of leadership. Okay, so the other part of this then, if people is your one true sustainable competitive advantage, it's your culture, obviously, that you can do that with. Let me assure you of this simple thing, that businesses or organizations do not run out of money. They run out of ideas and innovation. And ideas and innovation come from humans or from people, not budgets and not AI. Okay, so therefore it's a finding game, not a funding game in your organization. So we need to make sure we can find the best people and then find within them the amazing talents that they can bring to work every day and unleash that in our business. Modern management training won't do that. 1 day, 3 day, 5 courses will not teach you how to do that. So what I'd like to do is introduce you to the Leadership Evolution Action Plan. This is our methodology in how we've been working with our clients for the past 7 or 8 years now at Circle Leadership to help them not only evolve themselves, but their leaders to become who they're capable of so they can lead their team. How do we help people go first, to create the space and capacity for the leadership team to go so that the rest of the organization can continue to evolve? So I'm going to introduce you to the Leadership Evolution Action Plan because right now we are offering this for the first time as a public offering to the market. Normally, this is just part of our business evolution system that our clients, our next 90 business evolution system that our clients go into after we've finished building their roadmap. And part of their own leadership development and their leadership teams is they get access to this. But we have been fine-tuning this process over the past 24 months, past 12 months, going deep into it to now create a way where we can offer it to the public. The same process that our clients have been using for many years. Some of the reasons why this works wherever traditional training fails, as you can see, is that it's built on bite-sized learning, and that sticks, right? So smaller pieces that will stick. It's got real-world application. It's not theory. This is practical, pragmatic stuff you can put in play in your workplace straight away. It's also built on peer accountability because checklists don't lead, right? And then it has our content times context equals concept proven formula that every session is built on. And then there's monthly coaching in the flow of work, not away from it. So it's not something that you do outside the work. It's actually you get monthly coaching while you're in the workplace. Okay. Then you have full access to the Circle Leadership Toolbox. So all the other tools, resources, methodologies, content, everything, templates that you could need to actually help you to become the best, to do your best while in the care and beyond, is available to you. And of course, last but not least, you actually only have to take about 4 hours of time per month, actually, a focused commitment to actually create the transformation that you need. You don't need 8 hours. You don't need 24 hours. You don't need 72 hours. You don't need 40 hours, whatever it is, how many hours of whatever it is you're going to add up over the year or time to do it. You need 4 hours a month. That's all you need. Because one thing that is built on is this premise, that less is more often. I'd like you to learn less of the content, okay, so you can achieve more and do that more often. Our whole process is built on this. A lot of the work that we do with our clients is built on this. Let's focus on less and achieve more, and then do that more often. And our content times context equals concept philosophy is fundamentally this. We teach you the content, then you are coached to put that into your context. So our content times your context with your action plan to embed the concept. Okay, so we help you to learn an aspect of leadership in terms of content and leading people. And then you are coached with a whole bunch of peers and other people in different organizations to contextualize that. What does that mean to you in your workplace, in your leadership, and learning from other people who are doing similar things, but in different organizations, and then developing your action plan to embed the concept. Then you learn another piece of content, and then you contextualize it and then embed that concept, and then another. So that's how the whole thing is structured. And fundamentally, with tied to the less is more often, one of the things that we have found is that you go to a 8-hour, if you go to a 1-day leadership course, all right, you go there. Now, out of that, there's probably about 2 hours or so of the information that was really the vital piece of information in all the different sessions, right? That's the 20%. That if you applied that, you would get 80% of the results of everything you learned from that training day, right? So if you go to a 5-day course, you might find there's about 2 hours of each day that'll be the most meaty parts, the most important parts. If you just put those things into play every single day immediately, you would get the biggest results. Now, the remaining 80% of the content that you're going to learn in those, either that one day, say the remaining 6 hours or so, or whatever it might be, the remaining 6 hours of each day over the 5-day course, is only going to give you about 20% of the impact. So what we believe in modern leadership and thinking in terms of leading people is just focusing on the 20%. That's going to produce you the 80%. Then take the other 80% of the time and put that back into the 20% that gives you the 80% of results. Instead of putting that time into that whole other 80% of the time into the thing that only gives you 20%. Now, this is important. I'm going to say it one more time. Take the 20% of the things that matter most, the things that give you the biggest results, and focus in on those things. Take that one thing, and that's going to give you the biggest impact, and focus in on that thing. Then instead of spending 80% of the time to learn the remaining 20%, take that 80% of the time and put it back into that first 20% to exponentially increase your results. That is a far better way. That is less is more often. And this is how every session in the LEAP process is built. And so let's take a look at it here in just a little bit more detail. So we teach you some content as an individual. Then you attend a group coaching session where you're educated to contextualize that information to you and yourself in your workplace and in your life. And then you do that with your peers, all right, where then you can share with each other. And then the remaining part of the month, you then have built your action plan from that contextualization session. Here's the 3 things I'm going to work on to embed this. And then you work on that for the following weeks to embed it. The next month, you take another piece of content, right, that you start to adopt. Actually, put it through here. It's probably easier. You take the next piece of content that you're going to learn, and you're going to absorb that content about 4 to 6 times over the 2-week periods so that you can learn the content. And then you'll attend the group session where you'll have group discussions, you'll be in breakout groups in terms of the context to contextualize it, what it means to you, and we're learning from each other. And then you develop your action plan to embed the concept over the remaining 2 weeks of that month. And then as you can see in the diagram on the right, you take that one piece, and once we've done that, you keep doing that. The next month, we take the next piece, and we run through the same cycle, and then you keep doing that. Then you take the next piece, and then you keep doing that. And then you take the next piece. So over a period of time, you transform from who you are to who you're capable of becoming. It's a process of transformation, a steady, progressive increase of your capabilities, thus your capacity for greatness expands. So a session within the Leadership Evolution Plan, just to give you more details of what it would look like, is first off, let's talk about the concept of, like, every session is broken up into 3 categories. So we have different 3 categories of where all the sessions run through, okay? So here's what it would look like. The first thing that we talk about is self-leadership, right? Leadership of self, based on the premise that you can't lead anybody else until you've understood how to lead yourself. So the first thing we always start with is leadership of self. Because please understand, when I said we're talking about how do we build leadership depth and strength, this isn't about how do we create more layers of leadership, but how do we go deeper into the concept of leadership? And that starts with leadership of self, right? And self-awareness is the key to self-leadership. So we help you understand who you are and the type of leader you'd like to become, and the science and psychology behind how your mind works and human behavior and everything like that, so you can apply these principles to yourself to help you to understand, here's how I can become who I'm capable of. Then, of course, once you've understood all that, then you can go, how do I apply this and help my team with this? So I can go leadership of self to leader of teams. And then taking that psychology that you've learned, and then also adding to that your leadership style, communication styles, how to become a coach, not a boss, all right, and many other things that you'll learn through the leader of teams on how to help people be their best, to do their best while in your care and beyond. I know how to do it for myself. Now I know how to help teams do that. And then once I've embedded that in, then the final step is then lead the business. Is how do I take this amazing group of human beings and collectively get them to work towards some greater good? Right? So we go leadership of self, leader of teams, and then lead the business. And then how do we take that business to the next level? How do we help the business become the best it can be so it can do its best work for our clients while it's in our care and beyond? So this is how we create leadership depth and strength in our organization, using our content times context equals concept and less is more, and all the 20% that produces the 80%, right? And then in each of those layers, so we have a set of 4 things we'll work through from a leadership of self, and there's a bunch of tools you can see highlighted in the light blue area. There's a bunch of other tools in the Circle Leadership Toolbox that people can access and use to help them to evolve themselves as a self-leadership. Then we move into leader of teams, and you can see that's the chunkier part. There's about 10 different topics we cover within that, and about another 8 tools that are available to the people to help them to become the best leader of teams. And then the last part, of course, is to lead the business. Once you've done that, then there's 4 things that we take the leader through on how to lead the business, and how to evolve the organization, how to get everyone involved in the narrative and story, how to build economic value, and how to really drive the organizational behavior that you're looking for. So everything is staggered in an approach where it's steady, progressive increase of your capabilities, thus your capacity for greatness expands. Right? And then when you get into the sessions, there's a whole bunch of videos that are simple. They're like 10-minute videos that go right into the heart of what matters most in that particular aspect of leadership, the 20% that will produce the 80%. So it's a simple video, and there's information there. As you can see in this particular one here, it's like a 9-minute and 50-second video that you'll watch 4 to 6 times over the 2-week period. And then in that, you'll have the video lesson, you'll have description about what it is. There's a diagram model or template that you can use for each thing. There's an ability to put comments in there if you have questions, because you're part of a community now when you're in the Leadership Evolution Action Plan, where you're able now to put in comments, hey, I was watching this thing here, I didn't understand this, or hey, has anybody else tried this or applied this, or what was other people's? And the community can jump in. You can ask a question of our highly trained coaches who will be able to assist you with any of it. So whilst you're doing some self-learning, there's still access to a whole community, access to all the tools, immediate feedback. You don't have to wait. If you're trying something in the workplace, you can get immediate access to people. You can share it with your peers. And then when you look at the actual process itself, then you're fully supported every month for the full 12 months while you're in the Leadership Evolution Action Plan, right? So each session itself, as you can see, once again, this is what a video looks like. Yours truly taking us through a particular topic. In this one, like I said, as the previous video, there's the full-on video, and then there's the template of me whiteboarding and explaining it there. There's blank templates of this for you to follow along and to reinforce, so you can do auditory, kinesthetically, visually. All three different types of learning formats are involved in every session. Right, and then at the end of each session, there's a tactical planning step. So there's suggested ways that you can implement this right back into your workplace. We encourage you to develop your own, but we give you ideas of things that you could do to get this particular session immediately embedded into your workplace when you head back. Right, and then of course there's access to the full circle leadership toolbox in this process. Right. And in the toolbox is all the tools, resources, templates, models, methodologies, everything you could ever want or need to help you to become the best leader that you're capable of, to do your best leadership while in our care and beyond. Right? And some of the concepts that we cover through the Leadership Evolution Action Plan, which is about leading humans, is that we've already said about how to be humans first, employees second, how to develop resources for humans, not humans as a resource, how we look at how to help everyone create a personal connection to the public sense of purpose in your organization, how to help people focus on what they punch out, not when they punch in and out, how to learn how to delegate outcomes to people, not tasks, get people involved in the work, involved in decisions about the work, how to move from performance management to actually performance leadership, and how to build that culture and brand relationship to make everybody fall in love with why you do what you do. Okay. So the question to you is, if this is something that you would like more information, or you're ready to start, and you would love to be able to think about how to evolve the leadership in your organization, and you're tired of spending on money on investments in leadership that doesn't produce the results you were hoping for or create the transformation that you're hoping for, the only thing that changes is your budget when you invest in those things. If you'd like to see a bigger return on your investment, all I ask is you just put a comment down below that, hey, we'd love to talk to you about what this might look like. Happy to go into deeper conversation, share more information about how this might work for your organization, and get your team ready to make a leap and join the Leadership Evolution Action Plan. We have registrations for this first cohort for 2026 closing on November 30th. It is limited to a maximum of 30 people to maintain the intimacy of the group and its learning, and make sure there's plenty enough time and space for everyone to have the right discussions in the group coaching process, to make sure everyone has access to the right coaches and time throughout the whole process. So if you would like some of your team members or yourself to participate in the Leadership Evolution Action Plan for 2026, our first cohort, the closing date is November 30th. We're looking up to a maximum of 30 people to join that cohort, which will kick off in January 2026. If anyone has any questions about anything I've shared or presented today, please feel free to drop a comment in wherever you've watched this and which social platform. We'll get back to you. If you'd like to have a discussion about your organization, just drop in a hashtag LEAP or DM or message me, and we'll set up a time for no obligation, just a quick chat about what it might look like for you and your organization, compare it to what you've been doing, and see how this might actually help you get the results that you've always been wanting for your organization and for your own leadership. So other than that, I'd like to thank all of you for watching and participating in this session. I'm going to run another one next week. Please feel free to share this with somebody if you know somebody who might find value in looking at how they've been leading their organization and are looking for something different, because it is time to lead different. Therefore, we can't keep training people the way we've always trained them, because I think that's the definition of insanity, doing what you've always done and expecting a different result. So if you don't want to be insane anymore in terms of your leadership, give us a shout out. Thank you very much, everyone. And hopefully you make a tremendous leap in 2026 for yourself and your own business.